Last week, a white owl was found walking along the roadway on Main Street here in Cedar Falls. This owl was taken to the Black Hawk Wildlife Rehabilitation Project because he exhibited some health issues. Earlier this week, City News checked in on the little guy.
Last week, a white owl was found wandering down Main Street looking disoriented.
The first thing I heard about the albino owl, I got a call from animal control that said, "Hey, I got a white owl to bring you." And I'm sort of like thinking, yeah, sure. But when he got here, sure enough, there was an albino owl.
The reason she didn't almost believe it was because of just how rare an albino owl is. According to the Ottoman Society, there's approximately 1 in every 1,800 birds that are born albino, making this find very rare indeed. The Black Hawk Wildlife Rehabilitation Project later found out that this owl had lived in a neighborhood in Cedar Falls. A family there actually saw the owl hatch in a nest along with 3 siblings. It left in April and came back this July. However, on the day the albino owl was found wandering Main Street, neighbors claimed they saw the owl pick up something and eat it. Shortly after she ate it, she became wobbly.
And from that point in time until animal control picked it up, it traveled over 4 blocks. It was in the middle of Main Street, and animal control picked it up and brought it out. And truly, the owl was compromised. We're assuming, hypothetically, maybe it ate something bad, but it affected its coordination. It was really kind of languid, just out of it. And so when I brought it in, I weighed it. It was on the thin side, but it looked fine, and I tubed it to rehydrate it. It was really dry. Right after tubing, it perked up a little bit, but later that evening had no interest in even small bits of food. But the next morning, it had a lot of interest in food, and then shortly after it ate, it threw up some really gross, awful, smelly, unidentifiable stuff. So that's where our hypothesis came from, that it ate something bad. And since then, I have to say, if I described her with one word, it's eating. She's been eating a lot. We moved her from the house out to the flight cage and put another owl in with her that was her same age as she was. And so we've been observing her in the flight cage, flying back and forth, and how well she's eating, which is very well. And before she goes, we've also had the vet check her over, and she pronounced her thin but very healthy. Before she goes, we'll move her to another flight cage where she has a little more chaos. She's in with a lot of other barred owls, and see how she does there, but I suspect that'll be just fine. And then we plan to release her back in the neighborhood she came from, back with her sibs and her mom and dad.
They hope to release the albino owl within the next week or so. Many of the owl's neighbors have even been in to visit with the beloved white owl and plan on being there for the release. Nebby has worked as a wildlife rehabilitator for the past 40 years and currently works at the Black Hawk Wildlife Rehabilitation Project, which is a nonprofit organization comprised of a group of DNR licensed volunteer rehabilitators and veterinarians dedicated to helping our wildlife return to their natural habitat. Once the wild animal has healed and has been deemed safe to return to the wild, the volunteers like to release the animals back where they found them or where they believe their territory is.
And we do that for 2 reasons. First of all, they know their territory. They know the safety places. They know where food's located. They can negotiate it. But the other reason is they all have family ties. And particularly, with this little owl, it has 3 siblings and 2 parents that it's still very much being cared for by, so it'll be back home with them. The owl normally will leave its family later this fall, probably in October, to go be an adult owl. But until then, it'll definitely be with that family, and possibly even after that retain some, threads of connections with the others.
Nebby recounts a time when she released a female red-tailed hawk who had broken its wing back into the prairie where she found it after 10 weeks of healing and rehab. As soon as the female hawk was released, it was joined by a male red-tailed hawk immediately. Though taking care of sick, injured, or orphaned native wild animals is a big part of what the Black Hawk Wildlife Rehabilitation Project does, they also try to educate the public.
Well, education is really important. We actually have 2 missions. Our first mission is to help the animals so we can release them back to the wild. Our second mission is to educate and encourage people to care. by erasing misunderstandings, by hopefully helping them be able to live peacefully with the wild animals in their midst. After all, we did replace them, and so we've moved into their territories. We believe that if all we did was help individual animals, that might do some good, but it's not going to change anything. So the education is a really important part of our program, and we do education in all different formats. We do programs, we have activity service projects, interns work with our program from the various universities. We have volunteers that can work with the program. So we try to include as many people as we can, and just like the release, definitely the neighborhood will be included when we release the white owl.
In fact, here's some quick advice from Linda Nebbe on how to respond to wild animals who look like they need help. If you find a baby bird on the ground, contrary to popular belief that the parents won't accept the baby if it is touched by humans, you can touch the bird. So if you know where the nest is, place the baby bird back in the nest. If you can't reach the nest or can't find it but have an idea of where it is or where the parents can find the baby, make a nest. You can do this with a small basket or a Tupperware dish with holes in the bottom of it so that water can go through it, and tie it as close to where you think the nest is as you possibly can. If you find baby bunnies with no mother around, don't touch them. The mother usually comes at night and leaves the babies alone during the day. The same goes to fawns. Since fawns are very fragile and weak, the mother must leave them during the day so she can eat. She will come back at night. Nebbe notes that she gets a lot of calls about possible orphaned fawns, and 80% of the time, she has instructed them to leave the fawn alone because the mother will return. However, if you know for a fact that the fawn is orphaned or injured, use gloves to place the baby deer in a box in a safe, warm place. Do not give it food or water, however, and call the Black Hawk Wildlife Rehabilitation Project at 277-6511. The program gets over 1,000 animals a year. Nebbe alone works with nearly 300 of the animals. In fact, when I went to visit the owl earlier this week, I also saw several other owls, woodpeckers, baby ducks, a robin, a crow, several fawns, a baby raccoon, a huge tortoise named Elliot who has a love of carrots, and many more. Want to help out this program? You can help with the project, donate equipment or supplies, or make a monetary donation. Call their hotline at 277-6511 for more information.
To learn more about the Black Hawk Wildlife Rehabilitation Project, visit their website at bhwildliferehab.com.